Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited for today's video because the time has finally come. It's that time of year. It's the Sephora Vib Savings Event and I have my recommendations video for you guys today. I actually wish that they would be more quiet outside. I actually am going to split my video into two separate recommendations videos just because I'm looking at my recommendations here and there is so much to get through today. So I'm going to split up and just do makeup recommendations today, and then tomorrow my skincare, hair care, body care, all other things will go in tomorrow's recommendations video just because I don't want this to be like an hour-long thing. And I also will link, I believe I have a Sephora Vib sale recommendations playlist, which I will link down below. My makeup preferences and style has changed quite significantly over the course of the last year. So my recommendations are not going to be like the hoity-toity same thing every year. However, I probably most likely still recommend just about everything that I have recommended in the past. So if you feel like binge watching some Sephora Vib sale recommendations videos, I will leave my playlist linked down below. I will also link all of the products that I mentioned in today's video. They will be affiliate links. If you do feel like supporting my channel, I do make a small commission off of those. But if you are not comfortable with that, you can always just take notes, write down anything you might be interested in, and then go to the Sephora website yourself. I will also leave all of the sale information in the description box down below so that you can see when everybody gets to shop the sale, all things like that. So that being said, if you are interested in seeing my Sephora recommendations, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love if you would consider subscribing before moving on. I do tons of project pan videos over on my channel, and I just love to talk about makeup. So if you like either of those things, I would love if you would consider subscribing before moving on. But other than that, let's just get into these recommendations. I finally scrubbed my self-tan off. But not all of it. Like I still have a little bit of exfoliating to do, but I just feel like I look so pale. I might have to self-tan again. All right, I actually took the time to like straighten my hair today, but there's so much to get through that we just tossed it up in a ponytail. Like I said, the majority of the products that I'm going to talk to you about today, I tried to not do repeats from sales past. I also should have swatched clips of everything, so hopefully you'll get to see everything in action. But if you do have any further questions about any of these products that I don't answer in today's video, feel free to leave me a comment and I would be happy to answer them for you. Let's jump into primer category first. I'm going to try and go in the order that I would do my makeup. So you guys already know, and I just have to mention them because you guys know I love them so much. I dropped one of them. The First Aid Beauty primers, they're my favorite primers ever. I have been using the Coconut Skin Smoothie Primer for 2 or 3 years at this point, and it remains a favorite, and I'm also a huge fan of the other two. We have the Pores Be Gone if you have more oily skin. This definitely leaves the skin a little bit more mattified, and then we also have the Ultra Repair Hyaluronic Hydrating Serum, which leaves your skin super hydrated. I also feel like it gives kind of a highlighted effect to the skin, and this one offers a really good tack to the skin, which I wasn't expecting. It almost feels a little bit like a gripping primer to me. And then we have the Coconut Skin, which leaves just the most beautiful glossy look to the skin. It smells like coconuts, which I personally love. I know not everyone does, but it also leaves the skin feeling very hydrated. And you guys know, if you're not new to my channel, I rave about these all the time, so I'm not going to drone on about those. But I have 2 other primers to recommend that I have tried for the first time this year and really come to love. First, we have the Rare Beauty Primer. Now, I will say, I don't think you will like this primer if you have oily skin. This leaves a very glossy and highlighted effect to the skin. It is very glowy, to say the least. You'll see in the highlighter, it is very glowy. You will see in the clip that I have of this, but this feels so incredibly hydrating on the skin, and I really have been enjoying that one. If you like to have your skin glossy and glowy, that one would also be really beautiful on its own. And then if you are someone who needs a nice gripping primer, I have been a huge fan of the Urban Decay All Nighter Longwear Foundation Grip Primer. I have the original, and I've also tried the glowy one. I personally prefer the original. This one has been a miracle for this year with the masks. It really helps to just grip on to all of your makeup and make it last a little bit longer, and this paired with the Urban Decay All Nighter Spray, And then I also wanted to give honorable mention to the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This is not a new product. This has been around for a long time. You can tell that mine has a lot of love because just about everything has worn off my bottle with the exception of the Charlotte Tilbury like actual logo. This is another really unique and beautiful product. So I have mine in the shade 2. I believe there are only 6 shades. This is kind of like a hybrid between a primer, a liquid highlight, or even like a very, very light coverage or like just like a glowy tinted moisturizer. Sometimes I'll just put this all over my face, blend it out, and it gives me just the slightest amount of coverage that it like smooths and evens out my skin. I love to do that when I wear this, or I wear this to the gym a lot, and that's what I like to do. Also during summer days, which I know here in the United States, we're not heading into summer. In fact, it's snowing outside for me today. But during the summer, I like to kind of wear this almost as like a tinted moisturizer hybrid. I've also used this as a liquid highlight, and I think it's beautiful. It's just a really unique product. Charlotte Tilbury is obviously more expensive, so sales are a good time to buy, and I can't recommend that product enough. That is something that I feel like I'll just always want in my collection because I haven't found a product that works exactly like that one does for me. Next up for the foundation category, I have quite a few to mention, and I'm sorry, but I just could not narrow it down. So I tried a ton of foundations this year, and I will link my ranking all of the foundations that I've tried this year video down below in case you guys are interested in hearing a little bit more of my thoughts on some of these foundations. I know I have recommended the Dior Forever foundations in the past, but I wanted to give them a shout out. I have both the Dior Forever Original as well as the Dior Forever Skin Glow. I recommend both of these. If you like a glowier look, obviously I would recommend the Skin Glow. This is beautiful, but I also feel like it isn't so glowy that it like leans on that like, or toes that line of like being too dewy. And then the Dior Forever gives the most beautiful kind of satin matte finish. Both of these are really long lasting. I do find that the original Dior Forever is just a little bit more long lasting. I love both of them. I always want to have both of them in my collection. If you're looking to just buy one, obviously it's going to depend on your personal preference. I think that dry skin gals would obviously love the glow one a little bit more. And if you have oily skin, I think the Forever would work really well for you as well. This one is also not new to my collection this year, and I don't know if I've recommended this in the past, but I really love this foundation. This is the YSL Touche Éclat Radiance Awakening Foundation, and this is another one that's just so beautiful in terms of the healthy glow that it gives to my skin. I have mine in the shade Cool Almond, which I think is a really good shade match for me when I am more fair like I am right now, and I also feel like this one lasts a decent amount of time for being a glowy foundation. Again, it is more of a healthy glow, and there is a very fine line between being glowy and being like greasy dewy, and this one doesn't toe that line at all. I just think it gives the most healthy looking glow to the skin, and I love it. And then the rest of these are new to my skin. The rest of these are new to my collection as of this year, and I have 3 kind of tinted moisturizers and 1 more foundation. The Giorgio Armani Neo Nude foundation I absolutely love. You'll notice in the cutaway that I bought this in my summer shade. It's way too dark for me right now, but this is the most beautiful foundation ever. I was really taken aback by this foundation. I wasn't expecting to love this as much as I do. It's just so natural looking on the skin, and natural leaning like a little bit glowy is my sweet spot, and I just feel like this foundation was like made for me. It's like my perfect finish. Medium coverage. I don't like anything that's too full coverage. This plays well with all of like my cream and liquid products in terms of like other makeup products. It plays nicely with makeup, other makeup, and I just love it. So definitely wanted to recommend that one. And then I've really gotten into tinted moisturizers this year, so I have 3 to recommend for you. Up first, I have the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint. This has SPF 40. This is so beautiful. It just enhances your skin and enhances like the beauty of your skin. Gives you the most like light coverage, like just evens everything out, but still like your skin obviously shows through, and it is so beautiful. I absolutely love this. This I have in the shade ST4, which I think might be like 1 shade or like a half a shade too dark for me at my very fairest. But I think this will work for me if I have just like a hint of a self tan, and I cannot recommend that one from Ilia enough. Also, I recently picked up the Tarte Maracuja Tinted Hydrator. Again, this one is very, very light coverage as a tinted moisturizer would be, but it just makes the skin look so healthy, just really enhances your actual skin, brings out like the good features, covers up a little bit of the flaws, and I just really enjoy this one. This is another really good gym foundation or gym tinted moisturizer in my opinion. And then most recently, I purchased this on a whim. This is the Smashbox Halo, and this is so beautiful. So this says it has a healthy glow all-in-one tinted moisturizer. It has SPF 25. This does give a glow to the skin, and I've had a couple of you ask me whether or not you think if you have oily skin if you would like this. This gives such a natural glow to the skin. I feel like this could still work for you if you have oily skin, and I just think this is absolutely stunning. I have mine in the shade light neutral, which would be too dark for me with my very fair skin, but if I self-tan just a little bit, this would be like the absolute perfect shade for me. This for me is replacing my Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer, which I used to love. I loved the illuminating one, which I don't know that they make anymore. And going forward, I prefer this over the actual Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer as well. It's so pretty, you guys. So if you've been looking for a beautiful tinted moisturizer, $36 is expensive, but not as bad as like Laura Mercier prices. Plus getting it on a discount. I love this one so much. Okay, moving on to concealer. I had narrowed it down to 3, and I don't know that I've recommended any of these 3 in the past. 2 of them are new to me this year, and one of them I've actually gone through 3 jars, but I just never talk about this. This is the Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector, and I have mine in the shade light to medium. I have been using this for years, but just never think to even really talk about this because I usually use this before I even put foundation on. I know Samantha Ravindal raves about this all of the time. So this is a very, very emollient, sticky texture, and I like to put this on before I put on any other foundation, anything like that, because it doesn't necessarily set down. So I use this underneath my foundation to brighten underneath the eyes, and it does such a beautiful job of brightening underneath the eyes. Sometimes I'll go over this, then I'll put my foundation on and then go over it with another concealer. Sometimes I won't. It's so, so beautiful. Highly recommend if you are looking for a nice under eye corrector. And then my 2 favorite concealers that I found this year. So I have the Hourglass concealer, which I like when I'm looking for a little bit more coverage. I think that this is really nice underneath the eyes. It never looks too heavy for me. A little bit of this goes a very long way. So if you go in with too much, it will look a little bit heavy. But I learned really quickly, just like a dot at the center of my eye and a dot at the other, a dot on both sides of my eye, both corners of my eye, and I'm good to go. To me, this looks really nice and natural underneath the skin. It's kind of like a satin matte finish, but it's still very, very hydrating. So I definitely recommend this one. And then I have been in love with the Kosas Revealer Concealer. This reminds me a lot of the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Concealer, but this almost offers just a little bit more coverage and is like a little bit more brightening and a hair more hydrating. Did I say all the things? That a little bit more coverage, a little bit more brightening, and a hair more hydrating. Yes, I just love this concealer. My dog, I think, got mine and like my cap's broken. I should just replace this and buy another one. I have mine in the shade 1, which actually works really, really well, especially for me, like right now would be perfect. I've heard some people say that they feel like this pulls a little bit yellow on them, but I find shade 1 to be a very neutral shade on me. Cannot recommend this enough. If you need like the most coverage, I don't necessarily know that this is going to be your favorite, but if you like medium coverage and if you like your under eyes to look just hydrated, this is so, so nice. I don't think it looks greasy underneath the eyes. Like I know, like if you had oily skin, I feel like you might still like this. It's such a good concealer in my opinion. All right, guys, for powders, I have 3 powders to talk about. I'll get this one out of the way first. I know I've talked about this in past recommendations videos. This is my Hourglass Veil Translucent Powder. I think this is one of the most beautiful powders on the market. It doesn't take the life out of your skin, and it almost has this very, very soft luminescence to it that just makes your skin still look healthy while still setting everything down. So I cannot recommend that one enough. If you need something a little bit heavier, I also really love the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Setting Powder. Again, this isn't like the most matte powder ever, so I feel like it just doesn't take all of the life out of my face. This is This is my second jar of this. I actually got this one in a BoxyCharm. I wasn't going to replace this. I liked this powder, but wasn't going to replace it because I had the Hourglass one. But I'm actually really glad that I have both of these because I feel like this one is nice on days that I just need just a little bit more staying power. I feel like this is just a little bit heavier than this one, but this is really nice, especially with the masks. I just feel like when I use this, my makeup doesn't budge and it still leaves my skin looking healthy and alive. So definitely recommend this one. And then for a pressed powder, I do recommend the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Whatever powder. In the past, I've said it's just not worth the price. I feel like I'm definitely going to be replacing that during the VIB sale because I just want that back. But if you want something that's just like a hair cheaper but still pretty expensive, I also have really loved the Bite Change Maker. This is actually, I believe, a powder foundation. As you can tell, I've hit pan in this. This is something that I will replace when I finish. This just makes your skin look airbrushed, but it's not heavy. It definitely gives an airbrushed effect to the skin, and I just think that it's absolutely beautiful. I wasn't expecting to love this one as much as I did, but I'm really glad that I found this. And if you're looking for a good pressed powder, this also gives good coverage to the skin, in my opinion. So if you are going in with like a lighter weight tinted moisturizer, but you also want to add a little bit more coverage, does anyone else do that, or is that just me? This is a good powder. I really like it. All right, guys, moving on to bronzer. I know I've recommended this one in the past, but I just wanted to give this one a shout out. I love this one, especially in the winter time. This is the Fenty Beauty Sun Stalk'r bronzer. I have mine in the shade Into Sun, which is the lightest. What I love about this is it's a nice buildable bronzer. It's not too pigmented, and for me, it doesn't pull too orange. I know I've heard that some people find that these pull a little bit more warm toned or more orange. I don't get that, but I also do have the lightest shade, so that could be the reason. I just think that this is such a soft, buttery formula, very easy to work with, blends very easily, and this is one that I use a ton in the winter time. So I wanted to recommend that. And I hate to do this, but I have fallen head over heels in love with the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. I just think it's so good. And again, I think the reason I love this one is because it is such a buildable formula. You can really not go too heavy-handed with this guy. It's also, I know it's very expensive, but it's the most ginormous pan ever, and I feel like it'd take a very, very, very long time to go through this, even if this was your only bronzer. I do have mine in the shade 2. Again, so creamy, so buttery, just such a beautiful formula, and a perfect time to buy during a sale if you've been thinking about this one. And then, as I mentioned in the introduction, my makeup preferences have definitely changed a lot this year. So I've really come around to cream products, and I wanted to mention 3 cream bronzers. You guys know I love my Milk Makeup Baked Bronzing Stick. I just think this is such an easy formula to work with, very beginner friendly. This one is a little bit more warm toned, but I don't know, I just really like this one. It's so easy to work with. It's very, I don't want to say warm, but like you don't have to warm this one up on your hands in order for it to blend out easily, and it's just so easy to work with that I recommend that one all the time. I recently picked up the Tower 28 Bronzino, and this has shimmer in it, so probably would have been a better option in the summer, but if you all year round like a glow to your cheeks, I think if you go in with a bronzer like the Huda Beauty one, which I'm about to recommend, or the Milk Makeup one, and then you just tap a little bit of this with a beauty blender onto like the higher points of your cheeks, this is going to give the most beautiful luminous glow. It doesn't look as shimmery when you blend this out onto the cheeks, and I've been super impressed with this one from Tower 28. And then finally, I also recently picked up the Huda Beauty Tan Tour Cream Bronzer, and I have enjoyed this so much. This one is a little bit more full coverage than the Milk Baked Bronzing Stick. This one, again, is super easy to work with, very, very creamy, very easy to blend out. I have mine in the shade Fair. I believe there are 4 separate shades, and this one also is a little bit more neutral toned than the Milk one, which might be a reason that I like this one a little bit more. For me, I like more of a neutral, even leaning more cool toned bronzer. So this has been a staple. I've been reaching for this one a ton. definitely recommend checking this out if you have had your eye on it. Need a sip of coffee. Okay, moving on to blush. I have a ridiculous amount of blush to recommend. Like, it's ridiculous, but I've been into blush this year. So let's quickly breeze through my powder, I almost said blushes. You guys know I have always been a huge fan of the Clinique Cheek Pops. My favorite shade right now is Pink Honey Pop. I love this one because it's just very, very neutral, and I just really don't think you can go wrong with this one. This kind of reminds me of Tarte Party, in that it just matches just about every look you're going to use this with, and I just think it's such an amazing formula. Very pigmented, stays in place for a very long amount of time, so definitely recommend the Clinique Cheek Pops. Again, Charlotte Tilbury, very expensive. Always want to buy on sale if you can, and I'm a huge fan of the Cheek to Cheeks. I have mine in the shade Pillow Talk Intense, and this is definitely more of a deeper tone for me, but I love this, especially in the fall time. I am interested in potentially picking up another Cheek to Cheek in a lighter tone that I can use more year-round, just because I really like this formula. It is so soft, but not too powdery. It's so beautiful. The outer layer, or the outer rim, is a matte formula, and the circle on the inside I'm so immature, is more of a satin formula. I always just mix them together. I feel like it'd be really hard to just get one shade over the other, but I think that these are beautiful. So if you've been eyeing the Charlotte Tilburys, I do recommend them. The Charlotte Tilbury Cheek to Cheeks. And then the third powder blush that I have to recommend, I've been a huge fan in general of Kosas this year, and I really like their duos, both their cream and powders. This is their powder duo in the shade Papaya, and it comes with a blush and a highlight. I really love a good coral blush, which is why I just love this shade. But these, again, are very, very pigmented. They are a little bit powdery, so I usually like to dip my brush in, and then I'll tap the excess off on my hand, and then I go on my cheek. That's just the way that I like to use these best, because they are a little bit more powdery, but I think that they're really good. I love Kosas. Highly recommend the brand in general. And then my top 4 cream blush formulas that you can pick up at Sephora. Again, I have one from Tower 28. I've just been so impressed with Tower 28 as a brand. This is in the shade Beach Please, or no. This is their Beach Please blush in the shade Magic Hour. This is a nice, beautiful, neutral blush shade. I will say that the Tower 28 formulas are very emollient, and they don't necessarily set down completely. However, I don't find this to be too sticky once I have blended this out onto my cheeks, and I, again, am interested in picking up more shades of the Tower 28 blushes. I think it's a really nice formula. If you're a beginner, I feel like this would be a really easy formula for you to work with as well. Just put a little bit on your finger, tap it onto the cheeks, and blend it out with a beauty sponge, and you're good to go. I know some blush formulas are harder to work with. Cream blush formulas are harder to work with than others. Also, the Patrick Ta duos, you guys, I'm a big fan. I have the shade Do We Know Her, which is this really beautiful hot coral shade, which in the pan, it looks super intimidating, but on the cheeks, it just looks so beautiful. Kind of gives that like you actually are sunburned kind of look, which I live for. And if you guys have not heard, you actually, with the Patrick Ta formula, this seems reverse, but you're supposed to tap, or you're supposed to put the powder down first and then tap the cream blush on top, which actually works really nicely, because the cream blush on top of the powder, one, actually, in my opinion, makes it last a little bit longer. You would think, again, it would be in reverse, but it does make it last a good amount of time. And it also gives sort of that satin glow to the cheeks that a powder would take away from. So I have been a huge fan of the Patrick Ta duos. I also have the shade She's So LA, which when I purchased this, I thought I could use as a bronzer, but this is more of just a bronze tone blush, which I also love a good bronze tone blush. So I've been a huge fan of both of these. I love Patrick Ta's brand as a whole, so if you've been eyeing anything from Patrick Ta, now's a great time to pick it up. Like I said, I also am a huge fan of the Kosas cream blush duos. I'll quickly fly through these. I have the shade Tropic Equinox, which again, it has that beautiful kind of bronze tone to it with a really beautiful highlight. These highlights are stunning on the cheeks. This formula, again, very, very emollient, very, very creamy, but I think it makes it really easy to work with as a beginner. Doesn't set down completely in my opinion, but also is not very sticky on the cheeks. So I do recommend this formula. I also have Velvet Melon, which again is that really beautiful coral shade that I just absolutely love. These are so nice, you guys. And then recently I got the shade 8th Muse, which I know it doesn't necessarily look like the hot pink shade would work for me, but going in with the tiniest amount and blending it out just is so beautiful. I love this tone for this time of year, and then I always love a good pink tone highlight, so I love the highlight side of this as well. And then my last blush recommendation, I have been a big fan of the Rare Beauty blushes. I have one in the matte formula, which is the shade Bliss, and then I also have the dewy formula in the shade Joy. I feel like I prefer the dewy formula. I think it's just a little bit easier to work with, but I do enjoy both of these. These are a little bit less beginner friendly in that they are so pigmented, so you truly just kind of want to go in with like a dot and then blend it into the cheeks. So there's a small learning curve in the beginning, but when you learn how to use these, they are just absolutely stunning in my opinion, and I've been a huge fan of these from Rare Beauty. Moving on to highlighter, I have an obscene amount of highlighter to recommend as well, even though I haven't been as into highlighter this year. I'm gonna breeze through these two really quickly just because I know I've talked about these a ton on my channel. First up, I have the Natasha Denona Glow Highlighter. I'm really eyeing the new I Need a Nude highlighter from Natasha Denona. This is her original. This isn't even her super glow. If you like a more subtle highlight, this is beautiful. As you can tell, I've used a ton of this. I have a huge pan in this. This is my go-to whenever I just want a very subtle sort of champagne, very just like glossy, natural sort of highlight on my cheeks. This does not look like you're wearing highlight. So I love this one from Natasha Denona. And then as I mentioned, I love pink tone highlighters. So Rose Quartz from Becca is one of my absolute favorites. I just have this little mini. I have another one in a face palette, but this is something that if I didn't have those two, I would purchase in a full size because I think in my whole collection, this would definitely be my favorite pink toned highlight. I also wanted to recommend this little guy from Bobbi Brown. I think Bobbi Brown releases this every single holiday because I picked this up, I think 2 years ago. This is a little mini in the shade Pink Glow. It's $25, so if you've been wanting to try one of her shimmer bricks, but don't want to pay like $44 or $48 and you like a pink tone highlight, I do think this is really pretty. This does have a little bit of sparkle running through it, but it's nothing too intense, and I think it's really beautiful on the cheeks. I've used this a lot as well. And then the Artist Couture Loose Powder Highlight I think is so stunning. In the past, if you had asked me like, would you wear a loose powder highlight, I would have been like, hell no, get me far away from that. But it looks so natural on the cheeks, especially if you go over top with a beauty blender, just kind of like blend everything out. I love the Artist Couture Diamond Glow highlighters. I have mine in the shade Summer Haze, which I believe was limited edition or just exclusive to BoxyCharm, but would highly recommend this formula in general. And then if you like a more intense powder highlight, I also wanted to recommend the Milk Flex highlighter, and this one is in the shade Lit. They also have Lit in a cream highlighter version, but this is so intense. It looks like a wet highlighter on your cheek. You definitely are going to be noticed with this highlighter. It's not going to be subtle, but I think that this one is so beautiful. I really love this shade specifically, and I've been more into a subtle highlight, but definitely wanted to give a recommendation for something a little bit more intense if that's more your jam. And then in terms of liquid highlights, I have liquid and cream. I've been freaking obsessed with liquid and cream highlight. I just think it looks so natural on the cheeks, which is just something I have been craving, like a glow, but something that's not like glazed. Like I wipe my Krispy Kreme on my cheeks today. So I have first up the Pillow Talk Beauty Light Wand from Charlotte Tilbury. This does come with a little poof ball applicator, and I do think the first time using this is interesting. I previously had the Glowgasm like blush highlighter, so I already was a little bit privy to the floof ball application. It's just different, but when you figure out how to use it, it's so beautiful, and this actually gives a pretty intense glow to the cheeks. I think it's pretty. Pillow Talk is a beautiful shade. It has a little bit of a like pink tone to it, so you know I love it. And speaking of pink highlighters, I also was a big fan of the Rare Beauty liquid highlights. I know these were kind of hit or miss because they aren't as intense, but I have been craving something a little bit more natural looking and not quite as intense as I keep saying. So I loved this. I have mine in the shade Mesmerize, and I think it is absolutely stunning. Very easy to use. This one's easier to use than the liquid blushes because I don't think you can go, it's not as hard to go heavy-handed with this. Like, I started with like 4 or 5 dots, blended it out, and had no issues with this. So I think this one is really beautiful. I also think you get a good amount of product in this, and I would recommend this one. And then my final cream highlight recommendation is the RMS Living Luminizer. I have the mini quad, which retails for only $25. It comes with a cream bronzer and then 3 cream highlights, and I freaking love these. I cannot tell you. It took me, so I had this for probably like a month and a half before I finally decided to give it a go. I don't know what was holding me back, but when I started to use this, I could not put this down. This shade specifically is just like, it's like intense, but when you blend it out, it still gives like this intense glow to the cheeks, but it just literally looks like the sun is just permanently hitting your cheeks, right? I just think this is like such a nice quad. I know that they sell this in a large size for $48, and it's definitely something I intend to probably pick up in the future when I go through the little quad, but I definitely had to recommend this one from RMS. Moving on to setting spray, I have 3 to recommend. Urban Decay All Nighter. I don't need to say anything else. If this is still available, which last I checked it was, I definitely recommend the Dominique Cosmetics JD Weighty spray. This is so refreshing and is just going, I love to use this at the end of makeup just to kind of like just bring some moisture back to my face. And I also use this throughout my makeup application to kind of help set down my powders. It just feels so hydrating on the skin, and I wish this was not limited edition because this would be like a permanent go-to for me. But if you can still get your hands on this, I would recommend checking this one out. And then if you're looking for a more affordable, still not the most affordable, but a more affordable glowy mist option, I recommend this one from, is it Innisfree? I don't know how to pronounce this brand's name, but this is their Dewy Glow Mist, and it does smell like cherry blossom. It does dissipate, and it's not like you smell like cherries all day, but when you first apply it, here, I'm gonna put a little on my face. It definitely smells like cherry blossoms as you apply it, and I will say you have to spray quite a bit of this to get a good glow, but that could be a good thing or a bad thing. If you like just a hint of a glow and you find like Tatcha Luminous Dewy Skin Mist to be way too glowy, the Pixie Glow Mist to be way too glowy, this could be a good option because it does give more of a subtle glow to the skin. And in the beginning I wasn't sold on this, but I've been more of a fan of this the more I have used it. So I believe this is only $18 too, which you're getting 4.05 fluid ounces. I feel like that's a decent price for setting mists, you know? We're going to talk about lips and then we'll wrap it up with eyes. My lips, I feel like you guys have probably heard me talk about over and over and over and over again, so I'm going to try and be as brief as possible. Let's talk about lip gloss / lip oils first. You guys know Kosas, huge fan of the brand, huge fan of the Kosas Tinted Lip Oils. I have 3 shades. I believe there's 5 or 6 shades. These are more expensive, so perfect time to buy if you have been thinking about them. Dip is my favorite if you are looking for like a natural everyday. Here, I'm going to add a little bit of dip to my lips. I have like 8 things on my lips because I keep just adding different things. All right, dip's on my lips now. Dips on my lips. Dips on my lips. As you can tell, it just gives them like a shine or a gloss. They're not sticky at all, like literally not sticky at all. I won't say that these are the most long lasting, but these do make your lips feel more hydrated, and I love that they offer a bit of a tint to the lips. I loved the shade Jaws, which is the red shade. I loved wearing that in the summer. And then I also have Malibu, which is a beautiful pink shade. So definitely recommend those from Kosas. From Tower 28, you guys know I am a huge fan of the lip jellies. So it started off with the 4 from the original release, I guess. I have the clear version, Chills. This is amazing if you are not huge into lip anything, but you just want like a gloss, you want something to just make your lips feel good. Again, this formula, not sticky at all. These are only $14, which is like half the price of the Kosas ones. And then I have the shade Fire, which is the orange shade, which I think is absolutely stunning. So beautiful, again, in the summertime. And then I have the shade XOXO, which is a little bit more pink toned, like a pink toned red, as well as Spicy, which is more of the actual red. Spicy, I'm going to be wearing all holiday season long because it gives just a nice red tint to the lips, but it also is offering like that hydration that I just need, because otherwise my lips go south very quickly. Like, they go south quicker than Santa Claus goes to the South Pole. He goes to the North Pole. Santa Claus does not go to the South Pole. Okay, that was dumb. And then they recently released 4 new shades, 3 of which I picked up, and I'll probably pick the 4th shade up during the sale because I just have to. I don't actually have to, but I just feel like I need to. So I have the shade Oat, which is this really beautiful pale pink shade. I have this mid-tone pink in the shade Coconut, and then I also have this brown tone pinky shade in the shade Cashew. I love all 3 of these. I love all 7 that I own. I cannot recommend the Tower 28s enough. If you are looking for a comfortable gloss that's going to feel nourishing to your lips, you need these in your life. And I hate to say that, but you do. How's that wing? You guys know I'm a huge fan of the Fenty Gloss Bombs. These are one of my favorite gloss formulas. I recently picked up the holiday set, her holiday set. I have tons of the Fenty Gloss Bombs, full size, not full size, mini size, whatever. In the cutaway clips, I have the shade Sweet Mouth, which is permanent to her line. It came in her holiday set last year, and now it's permanent to her line. It's probably my favorite shade from her, and in the cutaway clips, it's the one that is going to be swatched on top. And then I also swatched all of the minis in her new holiday set. I also just really love the original Fenty Glow. Like, if you can't decide on a shade, Fenty Glow looks good, I feel like, on any skin tone, with any look. It's so beautiful. Fussy is probably my least favorite shade, but I know a lot of people love Fussy, but I definitely do recommend the Gloss Bomb by Fenty. For lipsticks, the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea lipsticks are some of my absolute favorites. In the cutaway clips, I swatched 3 of my favorite shades: Rum Punch, 5 O'Clock, and Sunkiss. Rum Punch is kind of like a nude brown. 5 O'Clock is more of like a deeper brown, and then Sunkiss is kind of like more of that pink toned shade. I think they're all beautiful lipsticks. They are so comfortable on the lips. They are not a matte formula, so if you love a matte lipstick formula that's just going to stay on your lips and not budge, this probably is not the formula for you. But this does last a good amount of time and is really, really comfortable on the lips, so I cannot recommend those enough. I've been talking about those for years. And then speaking of Kosas again, can you guys tell I love Kosas? I really love their lipstick formula as well. I have mine in the shade Vegas, which you can only get on their website. Vegas is this really beautiful kind of just like nude brown shade. I'm really into nude browns, but in general, I just think that they have a really nice, comfortable lipstick formula. Again, not a totally matte formula that's going to like remain on your lips forever, but that's not my jam. Kind of jumping back to lip gloss. Sorry, you guys. I have been a big fan of the new Bite Beauty lip plumping glosses. I don't think that these make your lips any plumper. They don't tingle. I don't think they do anything in terms of making your lips look plumper, except for maybe making them look a little bit bigger because they're just glossier. But the 2 shades that I have are Cinnamon Twist, which is the brown shade, and then I also have Guava Puff, which is a really beautiful cool tone pink shade. I really like both of these. They are expensive, so if you've been thinking about them, it's a good time to pick them up. And then the Lilah B Tinted Lip Oils. These are so expensive, but I'm such a fan. So I have the shade Be Remarkable, which is this beautiful, beautiful kind of wine colored shade. And then I also have the shade Be Elegant, which is more of a cool tone shade. These make your lips feel so hydrated. They offer so much pigmentation to the lips, but I've never had issues with them getting on my teeth or getting all over my face. So definitely want to pick more of these up during the sale, personally. Also, the Rowan Kiss My Liquid lipsticks. I have mine in the shade Charlie. This I love. I have been getting really into Rowan as a brand. So this is like a really beautiful mauve tone shade. It's not the most opaque, and it's more of a lip gloss than a liquid lipstick in my opinion, but I love this. It lasts a really good amount of time on the lips. It offers almost just like a stained sort of effect to the lips, but still makes them look glossy as well. If you've been thinking about checking something out from Rowan, I'm also going to recommend their eyeshadow quads, but I think that this lip formula is really good. So then jumping into eyes, I have 2 eyeshadow primers I wanted to recommend because I've been really getting into eyeshadow primer and using eyeshadow primer over concealer. I just noticed that my eyeshadow goes on better and lasts longer. So the Urban Decay Primer Potion in Eden, I really like this one because it offers pigment to the lids as well. And then from KVD Beauty, Samantha Ravindell talked me into this. It's the most interesting product ever. It's the Shake Primer, and what you do is you shake this up, and when it's not shook up, the 2 parts are separate, but when you shake it up, they combine together, and then the bottom is like this clicky thing, and then you click the clicky thing. Oh, I'm great at explaining things. And then you have to like quickly get it on your eyes, but this sometimes can make my eyes look textured, whereas the KVD doesn't make my eyes look older or more textured. So I actually like the KVD one better because it also sets down a lot faster than the Urban Decay Primer Potion. I feel like I have to let this one sit on my eyes for a couple minutes before I like tap this out and then go in with like if I'm setting my eyeshadow. This sets down right away. This one's just a little bit more tricky to use, and I constantly feel like I'm like really rushing to like get it on my eye because it starts to like re-separate instantly. But when you can figure out how to use this one, I think this is a really nice product. Something that again really kind of just like took me by surprise. But if you're looking to try a new eyeshadow primer and you feel like your eyes can sometimes just look older when you use an eyeshadow primer or look a little bit textured, I recommend this one. I think it's very interesting and works really, really well. That brings us to eyes. We're gonna wrap it up with eyes. This is the longest video ever. Like I said, I was going to recommend the Rowan quads. I have absolutely loved these. I think that these are so unique. This is 1111. 1111 is more of like kind of like a mauve tone pink vibe sort of palette, and I just think that this is so stunning. The textures and the formula are so unique. These are perfect if you're looking for like a one and done eyeshadow look, and if you're looking just for something to give you a really unique look to the eyes. I also have the 75 degree palette, which is more of like a copper and champagne palette. I just think that these are so interesting, and if you've been eyeing these, I think that this is a great time to purchase. Okay, I don't have a ton of new stuff to talk about in terms of eyeshadow palettes. I feel like you guys, if you know me, you know my favorites. So from Natasha Denona, their gold palette is truly just a standout in my opinion. What I love about this one is that you have all the neutral browns that you need for everyday looks. So this can serve as the perfect everyday palette, but it can also serve as a palette that's going to offer a pop or give you something a little bit more. You can do looks that are very outside the box with this palette as well because of the blues and greens that you are offered. So I know that this is $129, but I freaking adore this palette, and perfect time to buy on sale. I also recently picked up the Natasha Denona Biba palette, and this is a neutral lover's dream. I've only used this 2 times, so I can't really like for sure recommend it. I haven't used all of the shades, but I did want to point it out. If it's one that's been on your list, if you know you'd get a ton of use out of this, it would be a great time to buy on sale. I love the shade selection in here. This one again would be a good one to travel with, although Natasha Denona shadows can be a little bit more fragile, so maybe not the best to travel with, but just from everyday, like for everyday looks, just so easy to reach into this and create an everyday look with. So wanted to recommend that. And then staying on the Natasha Denona train, I do love her mini palettes. My top faves would be, or top recommendations, if I had to choose 2, I would choose the Nude and the Retro. I love these 2 shimmers in the Retro. I just think that they're so unique. I also love the shade Vintage Taupe. As you can see, I've hit pan on this. even though you're only getting 5 shades, I think this, and at first, the color store, I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but I've always had a ton of fun playing around with this palette. And then the mini nude is another just very easy one to just dip into, create a quick look for work, and you're good to go. So if you have been eyeing the Natasha Denona minis, those would be the 2 that are my personal favorites. You guys know I also love my Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes. I don't know if you can get her original palettes anymore, which makes me so sad because the Smoky Obsessions is one of my absolute favorites. I also love the medium and rich nude. I thought I had pulled the rich nude, but it's not sitting here in front of me, so I don't know where it is. These, great formula. They do, both of them lean more on the pink side, in my opinion, rather than like true nudes. But I reach into these all the time. I think they are great. I recently picked up the Sand and Khaki palette, and I will say I like these better. I wasn't blown away by the quality of the sand, of the like sand haze palette and the khaki haze. I used the sand haze to create the look that I have today, but I also used a bunch of other palettes and shades. More powdery than I'm used to with Huda Beauty. And then the shimmers, a lot of them are more like lid toppers rather than like a true foiled metallic. So I wasn't blown away by either of those, which was kind of a bummer. And then you guys also know I love the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. This one is a very, very, very expensive one. All of Huda's large palettes are. So if it's something you've been eyeing, I love this palette. Soft Glam, not much more needs to be said about this. It's just like my perfect everyday palette. That's all I have to say. Also, the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette is like a perfect everyday palette for me because I just love neutral browns. And then it offers a couple other pops. I also think that the 3 shimmers in here are just outstanding. You don't need a wet brush, and they are very, very foiled. So if that's something that you like, I think that you would really enjoy the Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette. So wanted to toss that in. And then the final 2 palettes I wanted to talk about are the Melt Rust and Melt Gemini. I'm a big fan of the Melt formula. I think that within each palette, within every palette that I've tried from Melt, there's always one dud shade. So in the Gemini palette, I'm not a huge fan of the actual shade Gemini. And I do know these palettes can be a little bit controversial. Some people have had mold in their palettes. I've never had an issue with that. And I've had Gemini for almost a year now. And also the shimmers are very fragile, so you have to be careful. I know some people have received their palettes and they've had like a cracked shade. Again, I haven't had an issue. Actually, I did have an issue with that. My Melt Rust, my first one, came with a broken shade. But that aside, I just think Melt in general, like their artwork and just everything about their releases, my dog's chewing his bone, everything about their releases I love, and they're just a brand that I want to support. So if you like greens, I think the Gemini is absolutely beautiful. And then you're also offered half the palette, which is neutrals, which I love. And then if you're just more of like a neutral gal, you don't need any pops of fun color or anything, I have been using this one so much. This is the Melt Rust palette. I will say I don't know that there is necessarily a dud shade in this palette. Every shade I've used in this palette I actually have loved. Ravage is not like my absolute favorite. It's like this brown with like, it's like a satin brown, and I just don't really have a use for this usually. But you know, I'm just one person. I'm sure there are many people out there who would love that shade. I think that this is absolutely stunning. I love the richness of this palette. The pigmentation is just so good. And if you've been considering Melt palettes, I know that they're very expensive, so I do recommend them. Woo! Good thing I decided to do skincare and hair care in a separate video because we're probably pushing an hour already. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you're planning to pick up for the sale, or if you're watching this like the day of the sale, let me know what you picked up. I would love to hear from you. Are you skipping the sale? I don't know. Let's wrap this video up because it's been a long one. Thank you guys for sticking around to watch and for supporting my channel, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.